Today, we're looking at a blue ink by Callifolio Omi Osun. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. There's timestamps down below where you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Now, you can follow me on Instagram as an ink guy, and if you like fountain pen ink reviews, don't forget to subscribe. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Nemesign fission with a broad nib. I wrote with it for a day and used it to take my notes for this video. This first writing sample is done with a standard set of paper, Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. Now, there are additional writing samples that will occur later. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, so it came in a vial like this. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X 450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X 750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is just a hair lighter than the stub. Looks more different on camera than in person, but it's lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, some very nice peppering of shading throughout. 8 seconds to dry, excuse me. Medium is darker than the extra fine, just about the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, some very nice shading throughout here as well. 11 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us not a ton of color variation. It's better in the writing than the scrubby. Tomoe River. No bleeding, normal Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. Extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, but a nice peppering of dark letters throughout with 14 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, 20 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show no color variation. We do get a peppering of it in the extra fine. And Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. Extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. A very nice peppering of shading throughout with 9 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 12 seconds to dry. Scrubby of the extra fine shows some color variation. We do get that peppering. The medium shows none, and we got none. I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see a very light tan color at the bottom. Now it is immediately forming a line at the bottom and then pushing up, and there's quite a bit of water separation to where that blue comes in at the top. The one on the right that I let dry for 10 minutes, that line on the bottom, much darker, much more there. Not as much water separation. The blue itself is moving much slower, which actually makes me think that the blue might even be willing to hang around some. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, there's no way to use this in a note-taking situation. That lowercase h completely blown out. If that happens to a very important word in your note-taking, that could be, absolutely devastating. I wouldn't use it if I had to go back and highlight. Now, water is completely removing it from the page. It has not, but it is. We are very clearly seeing the white of the paper coming through. Water is all that you need to get this out of your pen. Pen flush, you see it around the edges. You see that it's go ahead and it's pulling it all off the page, but I didn't need to use pen flush. 1/3 bleach solution that you're not going to need, but it completely obliterates it. I test viscosity or flow with a tilt test that I'll link down below in a description or in a card. Now for the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Callifolio's Omi Osun has a viscosity of 1.97, making this a wet ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. I average those. Now, for the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with a realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Callifolio's Omi Osun has an average dry time of 12 seconds, making it a fast-drying ink. Instead of finding inks that look like Callifolio's Omi Osun, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I went for a nice brown Robert Oster's Caffe Crema. The second writing sample is done on yellow Rhodia, black and red, and white lines paper. Here we're looking at the yellow Rhodia paper. We're not looking for performance, we're looking for tone change. Does it change this blue to being anything else? No, not at all. It is a very opaque ink. Perhaps it's very saturated, which is what people tend to think. I think of it more as whether they're opaque or translucent. Quite opaque here, very safe in a work environment if you write on yellow paper. Black and red notebooks with no bleeding and no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, but some very nice peppering of dark letters throughout, with 4 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade, 6 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show no color variation, although we do get pepperings of dark letters in the extra fine. And white lines paper. Yep, we get a lot of bleeding, we get a lot of ghosting. It does not touch the page underneath, but you can't use the back of the page. But this paper is not really made for fountain pens. Although, to be clear, I've still used their paper. I like it a lot, and it's gotten thicker and better recently. The 1.1 has a ton of tiny little feathers all over it. It has no spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 2 seconds to dry. Medium, the same tone as the stub, the same feathering problem. Tiny feathers all over it. No spread, no halo sheen, no shade, 3 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show no color variation. Although the extra fine, no, doesn't. No, neither of them have it. That's all that I have for the writing samples. So what do I think of Callifolio's Omi Osun? There can be some shading in some of the writing. The tone is what's most interesting. It certainly stands out as a different blue. It doesn't look like the blue that you get out of any kind of ballpoint pen, which I appreciate. So what nib and pen give the best writing experience with this ink? That's going to depend on the tone that you prefer. Drier pens give a much lighter tone, and darker pens a much darker tone. I said darker pens, obviously wetter pens. I certainly prefer how this looks from a drier pen. I think that color is most appealing to me. If you've made it this far, and according to my analytics, 50% of you aren't, and you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up. If you are not subscribed, I would invite you to subscribe, and thanks for watching.